Hi, welcome to Candid Chats on Cancer. I'm Mary Robinson.
And I'm Jamie Moore. Mary, who are we chatting with today?
Well, we have Sarah Chris with us today, and I'm really excited because she's a survivor.
Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, hopefully you can give us some information about what your initial diagnosis was. And
Sure. So I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 26.
When you were 26, you were
Yes.
diagnosed?
That's young.
Yeah, so, okay. How did you find Hodgkin, how did you find your cancer and get in?
Well, for quite a while I had had some symptoms, and when you're 26 you just really don't think there's anything seriously wrong with you. So I would go to the doctor for, infections that just weren't clearing up, or I had some shortness of breath that just progressed.
Okay.
And
Sounds a lot like me.
Yeah.
really, so it got to the point where I was having some drenching night sweats, and I couldn't walk up the flight of stairs to my apartment without stopping. And I was like, man, I'm just really out of shape,
Yeah.
So I was trying to go to the gym more, but I couldn't run, and eventually it got to the point where I was having pain there, and if I tried to lay flat, I would just kind of get this choking feeling and actually vomit. So it got to the point where my now husband put his foot down, and he said, you need to go to the doctor and you need to get an x-ray. Something is going on with your lung, and you've been in plenty of times, and they try to give you anxiety meds. They just write it off thinking
Right.
that you're fine, but you're not fine. So one thing led to another. After the x-ray, you have your CT scan and PET scan, and found out I had lymphoma.
So you had been to the doctor a few times prior, so it's not like you were
Right.
just dismissing it, but they were thinking that you weren't really that sick. Is
Right.
that correct?
And I kind of felt that way too, because I was young and I didn't want to think something was seriously wrong with me.
Well, at 26, you never think anything is seriously wrong with
You're
you.
invincible.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just starting your career. I had just finished with college. I felt like, my life was just on the right track.
You
and
had
it
the
wasn't-
boyfriend?
Yes. I wasn't letting anything slow me down at that point.
Oh yeah, at 26, you're just out of school, you're getting your first nice paychecks.
Right.
Most of us are getting our first brand new car and our first, real love.
Right.
So did that kind of set your world a little topsy-turvy at 26?
Yes, it definitely did. It was a strange time. I'm sure it's always a strange time when people are diagnosed with cancer. But I was at the point where, I felt very independent. I felt very self-sufficient. I felt like I was building my own life and didn't really need quite as much assistance from my parents. And then when I was diagnosed, I was like, man, I need my mom. I need someone to help take care of me. This is
Yeah.
a lot. And
Were you living at home at the time, or?
I was not. I was in an apartment. My parents were actually in the middle of a move to Minneapolis. My dad had gotten a job there. So, he needed to make money.
Right.
He actually moved out to Minneapolis, and my mom got an apartment in Omaha. And so one week she would take care of me, and then the next week my boyfriend at the time would take care of me.
No kidding.
And it was tough because I felt very independent, and
Right.
it got to the point with treatment where I couldn't be alone a lot of the time. I had some strange reactions to different medicines and had to go to the ER a few times, and my immune system, of course, was just not at its best, so I needed some help.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate that I had my family and my boyfriend at the time in my life.
Did you have friends as well? I mean,
I did,
What was your
yes.
support system like, besides your mom and your boyfriend?
My friends are amazing. I really found out who my true friends are
Yes.
through this.
We've talked about that a few times too. You'd find out who your real friends are because it's
For sure.
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them didn't really know what to do,
Yes.
which is understandable, but especially when you're in your mid-20s, you don't have much experience with someone you care about, at least at your age, who have gone through something like this.
Right.
At least when I was diagnosed, I thought cancer was mainly for people who have already had their children, or people who are in their 60s or 70s who have had all of those life experiences. I didn't really comprehend that it could happen to someone in their mid-20s. That happens to other people. You know, it was very removed. So I feel like a lot of my friends didn't really know what to do. And so I knew that they supported me.
Well,
It's just hard for them to figure out how to help.
Yeah.
It's hard to figure out. Well, one, at 26, I don't even know if we even, know the word empathy yet. Because like you're saying, we don't have the life experiences yet. So how long were you sick for? And did it just seem to you like your friends, their lives continued and
You know, before I was diagnosed, I was sick for about a year. And then when I was going through treatment, I had 6 months worth of chemo treatments. And then I did 17 radiation treatments. So
Wow.
overall, it was about 7 months that I went through treatment. And I think the hardest part for me was that all of my friends were in this evolving career, and they all had these evolving relationships, and I just felt stuck. I was just needing to work my way through all of this cancer muck, and time passed quickly for them. They'd be like, oh, you're already on your 5th treatment, that's amazing. And I'm like, I feel like I should be done.
Yeah.
It's just, things felt like they took a long time. And so people would check in, and I always really appreciated that, for sure. But I feel like I understand now how lonely it can be, because people are there for you, and they want to be with you in your fight. But a lot of it can be a dark time.
Right.
And that's one thing I've learned, is just to not be so hard on myself, because life doesn't go according to plan. And you just need to be patient with yourself. Be kind.
Be kind, generous, joyful, peaceful, optimistic.
All of those things would be great. Yes.
And did your boyfriend stay with you through all of this?
He did. When I was initially diagnosed, I was told that there were some fertility options for me to look into. And so I went to a fertility specialist, and I was going to go through that fertility treatment, which would take at least a month or so. And I decided to get a second opinion and just go to a lymphoma guru, the best specialist in the world, especially in my opinion. And
You can give a shout out to him if you want.
Dr. Armitage is amazing.
Cool.
I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with his name.
Yes.
So he said, you're sick. You need to start treatment this week. It's like, I have all these plans for fertility treatment. I want to be able to have a family. I want, if I'm going to live, I want to have the life I want,
And that makes complete sense when you're going through this roller coaster ride and you just found out you were sick and you needed to do chemo. Of course that makes sense. But what did he suggest?
He said, you need to start treatment this week. You're sick. And I'm like, it's Wednesday. I need to start this week? And he said, at this point, I'm not concerned with your fertility. There have been plenty of people who have gone through the treatment that you're going through who have children. But at this point, you need to be focused on living. You need to start treatment. So I started treatment that Friday.
Good for you.
Yeah. And at the time, I told the guy I was dating, his name is Ryan, this is my thing. I need to get through this. I need to be focused. I need you to not leave me in the middle of it. So let's just bite the bullet, take a break. You do your thing. I do mine. I just need to get through this. My mom's going to stay in town. She can help out with me. I don't want you to feel guilty. This was my idea. You can back off for a while, and I can check in with you and let you know how things are going. And he was like, no way. Like, we are in this together. I don't know why you would ever think that I could back off from this. He wanted to do everything possible to help me out.
Man.
No kidding.
Because that's really brave of you, too, to do that, to give him that back out. But he really loves you.
Oh, he stepped up, for sure. Yes, he does love me. And about a month into treatment, he had a conversation with my dad and my mother and my sister while I was in for a procedure, and asked for my hand in marriage, and they approved. So
Aw.
a month into treatment, I got engaged.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you got better, and then
And
you
I got better,
married.
and yes. So
Aw.
it was amazing.
How long you been married for now?
We got married in 2013, so 5 years this past July.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you've been in remission for how long?
6 years.
6 years. And do you have children?
We do not.
Mm-hmm.
So but there's still a possibility though, yeah?
Yes. Yes. We're
Yeah.
open to it. It just hasn't happened yet. So
Mhm.
crossing my fingers that whatever's supposed to happen will happen, because as we all know in life, you make grand plans and then
Yes.
life happens, and
Yeah.
as you look back on it, things make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, you had 5 years of peace and quiet
Right.
with your husband.
Yes.
That you'll never be able to get back again once you have children.
I
This is
laugh
so
at that
true.
because I have 4 kids and I went through all of this 2 times and, with children, and that's why I'm laughing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love my family, but sometimes, it's a lot of work.
Mhm.
But I wish you the very best.
God,
Thank
that's
you.
just
Yes.
amazing though, that
Yeah.
you did give them, I don't know how many guys in the world at that age. I mean, you got to give props to her husband.
I should have brought him with me.
Yeah,
Maybe
you
some other
shoulda.
time.
Well, we will, yeah, the next time you are welcome on our show anytime you want, and the next time we would love to see him and hear his
actually
side of the
talk
story.
about his side with the caregiving, because he cared for you and
Right.
during all that time. So how long were you dating before you were diagnosed?
We were dating about 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So he was in it too.
He
I
was.
mean, yeah. Hmm.
Well, good for him.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Because really, I think at 26, I don't know if I could have made that decision, and especially if I would have been given the opportunity to back out.
Right.
No, I probably would have stayed your friend, and I probably would have done everything I could for you, but yeah.
And that's what I expected. I knew he was a good guy, but
Mhm.
I didn't know what was going to happen
You
with
found
me.
out he was
I
more than a
didn't-
good guy. You found out he's a hell of a keeper, huh?
He is. I'm very fortunate.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Good
great.
for you.
That's great.
So, when you were going through chemo, though, did you were you going to the hospital to get it, or? So how often did you have to get chemo?
I got chemo every other week. I went through what's called ABVD,
Okay.
chemotherapy. So I would get my chemotherapy on a Friday, and then that next Friday I would go in for, I don't remember if it's Neupogen or Neulasta,
Yeah.
some sort of shot to.
I had both of those.
Okay.
Neupogen and Neulasta. It depends on what they gave you, but they up your immune system, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Did you
Mhm.
have any bone pain from yours?
A lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot, especially from the Neupogen shots.
Okay, so maybe
And-
that's what I had then.
Yeah.
I had shoulder pain and long bone pain, but it was kind of like every time I had pain, I knew it was a good thing because it was like a little white blood cell was going pop
Mm-hmm.
out, and my neutrophils or my white blood cells were, pretty low at one time. And so yeah, every time I felt bone pain, it was like happiness to me.
You knew it was working?
Yeah, because then
Right.
the drug
I don't
was
know
working.
about that with me. I was, because I had to be in the hospital for a lot of my treatments. And so I'd be walking the halls trying to visit with the nurses because they were like my family too.
Yeah.
And I remember literally standing there, moving my legs up and down and saying, I'm sorry, I can't talk because it hurts too bad. And then I couldn't even talk to anybody.
Right.
And I'm a talker. So I was a little bummed out about that.
That's tough.
But I knew it was doing something for
Yeah.
me, so.
Yeah, you knew you needed it.
Yeah, exactly.
So during chemo, did you lose your hair?
I did.
Did you?
I lost my hair, I lost most of my eyebrows.
Well, again, 26 years old, you have no hair, okay, well, it's according to what college you went to. That could have been actually fashionable.
Right?
But how did you feel about being so young and
It was overwhelming. At the time, I had pretty much always had very long, thick, pretty hair. And that was tough to deal with.
Mhm.
Thankfully, I had some time before it fell out.
Mhm.
And I think I had probably 5 chemo treatments before I actually had to shave my head because so much of it was coming off. And my now husband is the one who shaved my head, and he actually made it into something that I could laugh about at the time, which was amazing. That helped a lot. I'm glad that I didn't just buzz it off myself.
So you put in a reverse mohawk or something?
Right, yeah.
Oh, you did?
He shaved some of it, and then it was just all scraggly because it was so thin
Yeah.
by that point, and it just looked really bad. So he's like, we got to go for it now. Shave it all off.
Aw.
So
My husband actually went bald himself. He shaved his own
Oh,
head,
nice.
and we were called the Bald Eagles.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right?
But I found out I have a very smooth head, so that was
Well, good for
a
you.
positive.
Not a
You know, I
bumpy
didn't
head
have
or-
knobs. Yeah, so there's that, right? You got to look for whatever you can sometimes. So I did have a wig, and that
Yeah.
kind of helped me feel more normal going into social situations. You know, if I was going into a store, I didn't necessarily always want the attention because I had cancer.
Right.
You know, I just wanted to blend in and not have to have the special treatment.
Did you get any neuropathy or anything like that?
I
with it?
did, yes. It was mainly in my feet,
Mhm.
and I had some in my hands and my fingers. And that took a little while to heal up, but I feel good now.
About how long do you think it took you for your neuropathy to clear up for you?
You know, it was probably a couple of years. It really didn't bother me too much unless I was trying to run.
Right.
You know, then my feet would get numb and tingly, and but now I don't notice it
Good.
anymore.
That's
Good.
Yeah,
Well, your hair looks beautiful, by
Thank
the
you.
way.
Yeah, it really does.
I
And
enjoy it.
I was just sitting there thinking, a lot of the girls whose hair was growing back after chemotherapy has grown back curly.
Yep.
Like mine.
Mine-
Well, you can't probably tell because it got curled today, but mine's really curly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Mine had waves to it
Did
when
it?
it came back. And
Did
it
you
was
have
really
waves
fine.
before, or did you-
No, stick straight, kind of like how it is now. So I feel like initially when it grew in, it was wavy and very fine, kind of like baby hair.
Yeah.
And then once that grew out a little bit more, it went back to pretty much normal.
So same hair color, or?
Pretty much.
'Cause, yeah, we've had people's hair color change, and we've heard, yeah, they get really curly. Now for me, I didn't lose my hair, and the chemo that I had doesn't do that. So I always felt bad going into, to get my chemo or get my shot. I got hair, and there was girls who had started at about the same time I had, or in guys, and they were all slowly losing their hair. Finally, one day I asked Nikki if she would just cut my hair for me.
So
'Cause
you blended in? Or?
I felt bad, yeah. So
Oh.
it was like walking in with long hair and everybody else's was falling off. I felt uncomfortable, so I went and did the same thing.
Then you were
But
part
I-
of the club.
Yeah, that was part of the club.
Oh, that's funny.
So, what plans do you have for the future? Because you are still young and with a vibrant life ahead for you.
Thank you.
What are you and your husband got planned?
So when I finished chemo treatment, I'm going to go back a couple years and progress
Okay.
if that's all right.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I fell back into the type of work that I had been doing before treatment. And I really enjoyed it. It was a steady paycheck. I had a great future with that. But I really wanted to do something a little bit more fulfilling and something where I could give back to cancer patients. So I ended up working at a cancer center, and
Really?
I coordinated the tumor boards, which was humbling and exciting for me because I had been a tumor board patient myself.
What do you mean by tumor board?
So at some hospitals, they have groups of specialists who meet to discuss their cases based on the different types of cancer that they specialize in. And so at least at the hospital where I was working, they would meet once a week to discuss their patients. And it would range from either all of their new patients or just patients who have pretty serious issues going on. So I got to coordinate those and work for the people who saved my life, and that was amazing. And now I work at UNMC, and I get to supervise the standardized patient program, which are paid actors who come in and act out different scenarios for different learners. A lot of times they're students, and they make sure that those students know how to treat their patients with respect and listen to them. And after my experiences, I'm sure you guys can relate with this too, knowing that you can talk with your doctor and that they're listening
Yes.
is huge.
Yeah, it is.
So it's super rewarding that I get to do that, and it's something I hope to do for a long time in the future. I feel like I've started to find my niche for my career. So that's my plan for the future.
So you're helping young doctors learn how to be more empathetic
Mm-hmm.
and learn to be more human in their practice?
Yes, it's a dream come true.
That is really neat.
Okay, now that's how to give back to cancer, because everything that you're doing, if you think about just one physician coming out of your program that sees 1,000 patients like us, now let's say you have 100 people go through your program. You're helping 100,000 people when you're doing your job. That's pretty
Significant.
pretty
Yes,
cool.
It is.
I'm happy with it.
That's good.
What-
Did you have to go back to schooling then? Was that the same type of career path that you could have been able to do without going back to school for?
Thankfully, I did not have to go back to school.
Mm-hmm.
What is your degree? I mean, what did you study to be when you grew up?
I have an art history degree.
You have art history and
Yeah.
She
you're
chuckles
working.
when she says that. I don't know why, but
So I think it's interesting because I graduated in 2008, and there really weren't many job prospects for art history majors.
Right.
People weren't really spending much money or investing much in the arts at that point with the economy. So I just kind of fell into the different careers that I've been in, and I'm super thankful I've ended up where I am, because I had no idea when I graduated college that this is where I would be.
Mhm. And so did you have any financial struggles or anything, since you had mentioned that, you were in, the type of career that really wasn't looked at the time? You couldn't find a job, or were you able to make ends meet while you were going through all of this?
So unfortunately, I could not work while I was going through treatment. And so that was a struggle, for sure. And it really gave me a different perspective on finances.
Mhm.
When I finished my treatment, I went back into the mortgage industry where I had worked. And I was in that field for about 6 years. And I worked with amazing people. They were so good to me. I respect them so much. But when the opportunity came up for me to work at the cancer center, I was pumped. I was like, this is something very fulfilling for me. This is worthwhile work, in my opinion. And it was difficult to make that change because it was financially not quite where I had been before.
Right.
It wasn't the income that I had been counting on. But since I went through cancer treatment, my view on finances changed completely.
Yes.
Because it really wiped out my bank account to go through treatment and not be able to work. And I knew that that's really not what life is about.
Right. And it really isn't. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Which actually brings me to what you do with your thankfulness. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. When I was going through treatment, I really wanted to focus each chemo treatment on a specific person who meant a lot to me in my life. And so, my first treatment, it'd be like, I'm doing this so that I can live the rest of my life with so-and-so. I'm doing this next treatment or this next radiation treatment because I want to be in so-and-so's life and be with them, And so that got me to thinking about what I'm thankful for. And some days it was, the sun is out.
Yes.
Or I made it through the night. Sometimes it was just very basic when you're going through treatment. You just have to look for those rays of sunshine.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it got to the point where in the morning I think about 3 things I'm thankful for. And then at night, as I finish off the day, I also think of 3 things I'm thankful for. And it helps me keep my perspective on life. And things aren't always perfect,
Yes.
obviously, but there's always good.
It's good in everything.
There is.
And it's
Mhm.
for us all of us having cancer is, well, one, we would never got to meet you. And so for us having cancer, we've got to meet some of the most remarkable people that we would never come in contact with. And what you're doing now is, as a survivor, to help other people now with cancer is commendable. And you were steered in the direction, you took your art history major and now you're helping other people heal. We thank you ever so much for that. So in our prayers tonight, we'll be saying thankful that you're doing your job. And thank you ever so much for coming on our show and chatting with Mary and I. Is there
We appreciate it so
anything
much.
you would like to say just really quickly within like the next 10, 15 seconds? Words of wisdom?
Oh my goodness. I'm not sure if I have that much wisdom. But for anyone who's going through treatments, I just really hope that they are kind to themselves and patient with themselves. It's a process and no one wants to be in this club, but you can get through it.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like I've always said, it's not a death sentence.
Nope.
Right.
It doesn't have to be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much
Have a
for
good
having
night.
me.
You too.
And hopefully you join us again next time.
We'll see you next time. Have a
Okay.
wonderful day.